People show up when they show up. Good evening. This is the 7 p.m. public hearing for the Economic and Community Development Committee. My name is Josh Goldstein, and with us tonight are committee members, council members, Barbara Smith, Jim Freyer, Lisa Shanahan, Jalen Seed, and then also in attendance are council members Ann Wennerstrand and Nicole Eady from the council. And then also in attendance tonight, I see Chief of Staff Tom Livingston and Chair of Economic Community Development Jay Hibansky. Barbara, did you have your hand up?
No.
No? Okay.
Accident, sorry.
No, that's all right. I see that Katie O'Leary from RDA is here, along with Stephen Ivan. So right now we're doing the public hearing for the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act program. Since this is a public hearing and is being recorded, Katie, if you wouldn't mind sort of giving a little synopsis on what this is. And I guess we should also make sure to see if there are any members of the public who wish to make public comment on this item. So Katie, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As Josh said, my name is
Hi,
Katie
everyone.
O'Leary, and I am with the Redevelopment Agency. This portion of the Economic and Community Development meeting
Can you
tonight
hear
is
me?
the
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes? Okay.
this portion of the Economic and Community Development meeting is the public hearing to allow the public the chance to share their comments on proposals that were
Josh, I
submitted.
think the agenda said 7:15 for a start time.
So there's a public hearing first on the Neighborhood Assistance Act grant, Jim, and then
Right, so Mike-
then the regular meeting will start at 7:15. That's correct. So there's two things happening.
Okay.
So one is this public hearing, and Katie was just explaining the public hearing and what
Sorry.
this is all about. And then we're going to start the rest of the agenda at 7:15. So
Okay.
I'm turning it back over to Katie. Katie.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Yep, like Josh was saying, this is the public hearing, which is meant to give the public the chance to share comments on proposals that were submitted to the city of Norwalk for inclusion in the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act. If the Economic and Community Development Committee approves the advancement of the proposals tonight onto the Common Council, then all comments that were made tonight by the public will be shared with the Common Council as well, along with the proposals. Josh, you want me to explain a little bit about the Neighborhood Assistance Act
Sure.
program
I mean,
now?
look, and just to be candid, obviously this is the public hearing. The regular meeting starts at 7:15. I do think we should start the regular meeting at 7:15, as I imagine there will be members of the public who may want to make public comment. And so we can't start the second meeting before 7:15. Since we noticed it for 7:15.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
do think, first of all, I do not see on my screen any members of the public who wish to make a comment about this, the subject of this public hearing. If that is the case, please raise your hand using the raise your hand icon, and obviously we will afford you the opportunity to speak. But right now we're only discussing the agenda that's on the public hearing, which is the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act program. So this is a little unusual because usually there typically is not a whole lot of public comment on this particular item. So I do think, though, since it is a public hearing, Katie, if you wouldn't mind explaining this and also explaining sort of the council's odd role in this, and sort of that we're sort of our function in this whole process.
Yeah. I did not receive any no public comments were emailed to me by the deadline either. So the Neighborhood Assistance Act is a program run by the Department of Revenue Services. It's a program that provides a tax credit to businesses that make cash contributions to qualifying community programs conducted by tax exempt programs or agencies. The Redevelopment Agency, we act as a liaison on behalf of the city of Norwalk. We collect and therefore we collect the applications that are submitted and kind of move them through it, checks and balances on our end process. They do go before the Economic Community and Community Development Committee, where you're asked to approve their advancement onto the Common Council, and the Common Council is then asked for their approval to advance them onto the Department of Revenue Services. And at that point, the Department of Revenue Services goes through a much deeper review of the proposals. And then in the fall, those proposals that they do approve are made public. And at that time, businesses can then choose to make pledges to the different programs. The city of Norwalk, we don't get involved with the businesses, finding the businesses, collecting the money, all of the tax information that businesses need to be aware of. That's all done through the Department of Revenue Services. Norwalk does not collect funds, hold funds, organize funds, or give out funds, or even find the funds for the nonprofit. So we're just more of an agent to move the proposals through the process. I will say, when I do receive the proposals, one thing I would check for is whether or not the proposals were for programs or for organizations that benefit the city of Norwalk. And if they didn't, that would be a red flag for me, and they would be not accepted by Norwalk.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Katie? Okay. I'm going to do sort of a last call here. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak or give comment on, again, only the subject of this public hearing, which is the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act program? All right, well, with that, then I need a motion. Councilmember Shanahan, all in favor to, and again, this is, I'm going to read the requested action, which I don't think I actually did, so I'm going to do that now. Which is
I'm
to-
sorry, Josh, can I just ask a quick question? Because this is the public hearing portion of this, and it's really on the agenda for your actual
You know
regular
what?
meeting.
You are correct.
Should the
I
vote
take
wait?
this back. You know
I was
what?
going to motion just to close
You
the
know-
public hearing. That's what my motion is going to be.
We can do, you know what? That is correct, and I read it incorrectly. So you're right. This is just a public hearing. We will take the actual vote at the 7:15 p.m. Economic Community Development meeting. So I guess then we can take a motion to close the public hearing, but there isn't a second Zoom, so everyone's just going to hang out here. All right. So then, as I've now asked multiple times, if there are any people who wish to make public comment, I have now asked several times. I do not see a hand raised on Zoom. I have not received any other indication. And as Katie said, no one has submitted any correspondence that would be included as part of the public hearing. So then, Lisa, make your motion.
I move that we close the public hearing.
All in favor? Okay. The public hearing is closed. So it's 7:09 right now. I do think, though, because the meeting was actually noticed for 7:15, if we have to actually wait the 5 minutes, or we probably do, just in case. Since it would be unfair, I think, to start the meeting.
You do, Josh. You do have to wait.
Yeah. So it's 7:09. Does anyone have a joke?
You have the jokes.
Well, my jokes are more like I've just thought of them because I'm responding to something, but like, I don't know, like you gotta come. All right.
Well, my joke was when I was telling you, I'm sorry that I was interrupting your meeting. My volume was off, so I didn't see anything, and I thought you were all just sitting there quietly doing it until I realized, like, oh my God, my volume's off, and then everyone's talking. I was like, okay, so that was the joke. Is that
That was
me?
good. Yeah.
I've done that before, for what it's worth.
You
I
had
was
me
like,
laughing,
everyone's
Jim.
quiet.
Is there something wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, it's me.
Yes.
I still think, I really do think every once in a while. Do you remember, like, right when COVID started, there was like the lawyer who was doing the court appearance and he accidentally turned himself into, he put a cat filter on and he's saying to the judge, like, I'm not a cat.
That was the best.
I think about that
Yeah.
pretty much anytime I'm ever on one of these Zooms or whenever I'm doing a Zoom appearance like in court.
It was one of those things during such a difficult time that gave us a little bit of joy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I desperately want to find a cat filter now and do that for every meeting.
Well, and the funny thing was he didn't know what he was doing. So he does it and he is like totally flummoxed because like it's a court appearance in front of a judge. I will say I remember once doing like a Zoom court appearance right when COVID was happening, and the judge was like a judge up in Danbury, and the judge was at home sitting on his front stair, like his stoop, because his kids were inside and were loud. And he had like the judicial like fake background of like his chambers, but you could see the kids like running around in the back. And I just remember thinking, I will never have another experience like this as a practicing attorney. Just like savor this, because it's just so weird that you can't believe it's true. But
Jim, if you're willing to put the cat filter on, I'll find it for you. You don't have to look.
Okay, I'm holding you to it.
you know, hey Stephen, Stephen Bruschi, I didn't see you on. How you doing?
Here, I have one for everyone.
Yes.
If anyone, it's not a joke.
Oh,
No.
was that?
But if there is anyone on here that has children or grandchildren like I do and knows of the show Bluey, nobody?
I
I've
know
heard of it.
Bluey, and I don't have
You know-
children, so that's
who knows
that's a
Bluey?
sad thing. I have a dog, right?
Oh, yeah.
I
well,
love Bluey.
you know Bluey, Jalen?
I love Bluey.
Oh,
Steve Bale and I
I
get to
love
hang out.
Bluey. So it's so sweet. I, got to watch the show with my grandkids. My daughter said, she said, Mom, you have to watch the show. And so now it's to the point where like, if I've had a really rough day or a long day or Pete's had a rough day, we're like, let's watch Bluey. So here we are. We have no young children in the house.
Just two adults.
We watched Bluey. We watched 3 episodes last night.
Bluey and
It's so sweet and amusing. So I highly recommend it. They're like 10-minute episodes.
Well, my grandson's coming for a week in toward the end of the month, so I should probably check that out.
Brush up on Bluey.
Barbara, where is it? Is it online or?
It's I think it's on Disney. It's from it's an Australian show, and it's a family of dogs.
Oh,
It's sweet as can be.
Come to think of it, I don't have Disney, thank God.
Yeah. I'm sure you could find it elsewhere.
No, I don't think so.
We're almost at 7:15.
We're almost there, guys.
This is the longest 5 minutes I've ever
I
lived
know.
through.
Wow.
It's like being stuck on the subway.
Well, I heard the land use meeting ran pretty long last night, so hopefully it won't feel as long as that.
It was entertaining.
Some
Yeah.
meetings are long. Some meetings are long.
By the way, there is an error in the background, the difference between I forget about it. I'm looking at you going.
Is this for like when we start in 1 minute?
No, I mean in the backup, the material. I mean, all the numbers are fine, but the backup is you're talking about the difference between the allocated and the allocated and the applications. On the first one, it's the difference is 300,000, not 299. It's different. It's off by about 750, and I think a number just got transposed, but it doesn't
All right,
affect any of the
we'll
numbers.
cross that bridge when we get to it.
Well, it doesn't affect anything. So
Okay. Well, guess what? It's 7:15 by my count. So here we go. So, all right. So welcome to the 7:15 special meeting of the Economic and Community Development Committee. I'm going to do roll call again because it's technically a new meeting. So in attendance, council members, Barbara Smith, Jim Freyer, Jalen Seed, and Lisa Shanahan. Sorry, I'm doing who's on the committee, and then also in attendance, council members Nicole Eady and Ann Wennerstrand, and we got a lot of staff in attendance. Jim Travers, Stephen Bruschi, Tom Livingston, Katie O'Leary, Stephen Ivan from RDA, Steve Kleppen, and Neil. I'm gonna just absolutely blow through your name, and I honestly don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, but Blaskowitz.
It's Nell Blaskowitz, yeah.
Yes. All right. Okay. So let's do acceptance of the minutes, the regular meeting from April 3rd, 2025. Do I have a motion? Okay, Councilmember Shanahan. I do have one correction, but does anyone else have any corrections or anything that they want to do for the minutes? Okay, so then the one I have, member of the public, Diane Loricella, reached out and wanted a suggested a change to her comments in the minutes, and I had it up and I'm now pulling up the correct page for where, because the minutes are kind of long, so I'm trying to get to where her comments are. Okay, it's page 5 on the minutes, and she wanted it to say where it says Miss Loricella reiterated her put the word budget after her before wants, so her budget wants versus needs. Then there's another sentence where it says she felt there is a lot of fat. She wanted to put the word still after is, so there is still a lot of fat. And then the following sentence, which says Miss Loricella then listed her issues and suggestions with Broad River Complex, the police and fire department funding for the vehicles, and the state of the city website. Likewise, she suggested the special events budget be cut in half and thought the parking authority should be audited. Other than that, are there any other corrections, deletions, anything with the minutes? All in favor of accepting the minutes as amended? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, so now we're on to new business. I'm sorry, whoops, skipped over. Public participation. Are there any members of the public who wish to make comments tonight? Just as a reminder of the rules, 3 minutes, and it has to be on items on the agenda for this meeting. I see 2 hands raised. First up, Diane Cece.
You asked me to unmute. Is it the wrong Diane? This is Diane Loricella.
I had said Diane Cece, but honestly, it doesn't matter to me which Diane goes first.
Well, you can never have enough Dianes. That's one thing that Ms. Cece and I agree on.
All right, so Diane Loricella, why don't you, your 3 minutes start now.
Okay, thank you. Get back my time, as they say in Congress. First of all, I wanted to thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a good conversation, but I did want to let this august body know that I was quite surprised when I read the minutes of my comments. Whoever is the person that put together the minutes or approved the minutes, I was quite saddened because there seemed to be a case of judgment and a case of trying to undermine the message. I was recall that this was a budget meeting where we had only 3 minutes to go over a fairly complicated budget, an operating budget. And I tried my best and I gave some ideas and solutions, which I always do. And so some of you on this call, I know that you don't want to hear from me, wish I never spoke, but that is, unfortunately, when you are in the public realm, sometimes the public doesn't agree with you. If this is tough for you to handle, you may want to try and rethink your public service. If you read those minutes, that as written, it was truly insulting. And I thank you, Josh, for being willing to make those corrections. The main reason I wanted to speak just briefly with the remaining time is when I read the $189,000 marketing contract that can be renewed for, I guess, 2 to 3 years in a row. I do believe, again, it sounds nice, but is it needed? Quite frankly, I'm becoming quite alarmed at the number of consultants we are using when we hire people that are supposed to be qualified for their jobs, especially when they're, I think, paid quite a good salary compared to other cities. And so, number one, I would like you to consider putting this on hold and making sure that this is a wisely spent amount of money. It seems to be way too much because, quite frankly, you have marketing people in the redevelopment agency. You have Michelle and the communication team. And then, of course, I believe that there are other people that can assist with making sure that the public is aware of commercial real estate. We currently have the former BJ's wholesale site that I fear. I'm hoping that our redevelopment agency and our planning and zoning and our ECD, Mr. Hibansky, who I haven't met yet, are doing their best to use easy social media and other means, real estate divisions, Chamber of Commerce. I really don't see the need for a $200,000 additional contract at this time. I ask that you put it on hold and you evaluate others in the departments that can do the job. This is not the reason
We're at
why
3
we
minutes.
don't have enough commercial taxes. There are other reasons, including the way the public views our school system and the way at times things are managed as far as
Diane, you're at
superfluous.
3 minutes now.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me speak, and I look forward to listening to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Next, Diane Cece.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, it bears repeating. We cannot have too many Dianes in the city. And whether you want to hear from us or not, we're here. So I'm going to use my, I guess we're limited to 3 minutes, but I wanted to speak to you folks tonight on what appears to be an action item, and that's why I'm concerned and speaking. It's item B as in boy on your agenda under Economic and Community Development, to authorize the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with an agreement between the city and this new quasi-government agency / authority that I'm hard pressed to find information on regarding who actually sits on this thing. The item, again, appears to be an action item. If this is only for discussion, I would ask the chair to stop me now so that I don't ramble on about something that's not an action item.
This is an action
And
item.
hearing it is an action item. Okay. So here's my concern with this. You're about to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement or a memorandum of understanding with this new quasi-agency that is going to support development within the city or certain parts of the city. Of course, I'm concerned because East Norwalk would be a target under the way all these statutes are written because we are a transit-oriented development zone and we have the railroad station here. But if you take a look at your backup material in the single page sheet that says we are CMDA, there's step 2 in their process of actually initiating all of this is to, following a public hearing, your local legislative body must pass a resolution to join the CMDA. So this seems like tonight's action item may be putting the cart before the horse. I'm really concerned because the actual formal resolution authorizing this is dated February of 2025, although I don't recall seeing anything about this in any of your meetings or any other meetings. And one of the whereas of your resolution says, whereas the city of Norwalk held a public hearing on July, fill in the blank, 2025. So essentially, you're authorizing all of this and giving the power to the mayor to enter into this agreement, which then gives the power to the CMDA, who are not elected officials, by the way. They're a quasi-government authority, to which I cannot find any member listing on their website, by the way. And so you're doing this ahead of the public hearing. And so what I would
15
suggest
seconds,
is if
Diane.
you're going to go forward with this, is that the committee should hold a public hearing at some point and then advance this through, to the council, for it to be considered following the public hearing. Why on earth are we entering into something of this magnitude and then suggesting that you're referencing a public hearing that's going to be held at a later date?
Diane, you're at the 3 minutes now.
I am? Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you. I hope that the elected officials here will understand my concerns. I don't know if I articulated it well or not, but I'm a little concerned, and I didn't see anything. Also, I'll just mention, Mr. Chairman, I didn't see anything in here that would lead me to think there's some time is of the essence. I didn't see any deadlines or anything else. So I don't know why you're taking this action item tonight, and I'm very concerned. I would have liked to have spoken after you discussed it, but our system doesn't work that way. So I'll stay on and listen in a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Are there any other members of the public who wish to make comments? If so, please raise your hand. I do not see any. So we will now close public participation and move on to A1 under redevelopment. Approve the advancement of the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act proposals submitted to the City of Norwalk onto the Connecticut Department of Revenue Services for inclusion in the 2025 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act program. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Smith. So we had a public hearing a few minutes ago on this item, but Katie, if you want to just for the record do a very brief synopsis here.
Yep. Hi. My name is Katie O'Leary. I'm with the Redevelopment Agency. And sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Tonight, I'm presenting the proposals the City of Norwalk received for the 2025 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act tax credit program, which is a state program run by the Department of Revenue Services. The program provides a tax credit to businesses that make cash contributions to qualifying community programs conducted by tax exempt organizations. Tonight, I am asking you to approve the advancement of the 2025 Neighborhood Assistance Act proposals submitted to the City of Norwalk onto the Common Council for their approval to advance the proposals onto the Department of Revenue Services for inclusion in the 2025 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act program during the June 10th, 2025 Common Council meeting.
Okay, does anyone have any questions, comments about this item? Seeing none, then I guess we'll take a vote. All in favor? Okay, that is 5 votes. That is unanimous. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for sitting through the public hearing as well. Have a good night, everybody.
You too. Take care. Okay, so now we're on to the second item under redevelopment. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents associated with the submission of the PY51 Annual Action Plan, AAP, and 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan, parentheses, Con Plan, to HUD and all documents consistent with the approval of PY51 AAP and 2025 to 2029 Con Plan. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Shanahan. Stephen Ivan from Redevelopment is here. This is, as you know, this is, we all call this sort of colloquially CDBG. So, Stephen, take it away.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. Just as a first point, the action item that we have tonight is for the July 8th Common Council meeting. I'll clarify that at the end as well, but this is intended to pass along for the July 8th common council meeting for final approval. I think that everybody has done a couple of action plans with us at this point. I'll explain the differences briefly of what the consolidated plan is compared to the action plan, and then get into some other items. The 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan is a 5-year kind of outline for how we look to spend our CDBG funds. We've had procured a consultant to draft this consolidated plan for us, that they take a lot of time to review existing plans, CPD data, HUD data, GIS data. They kind of evaluate Norwalk as a whole, update a bunch of statistics for us. That all gets put into this 5-year consolidated plan that will guide us for the next year. For the next 5 years. The annual action plan, year 1 of the 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan is included in this process. But the annual action plan is the 1-year snapshot or the 1-year update to each of these 5-year plans. So if you guys have any questions throughout this, please feel free to interrupt me. But just generally, the consolidated plan guides us for the 5 years. Each year, we have a 1-year action plan within that. So at the start of this consolidated plan process, we got some feedback from our consultants. They had suggested a more objective measure to selecting subrecipients. We had drafted a rubric, coordinated that rubric, and shared it for some feedback in order to get council member feedback on how they would like to see the changes to the rubric, or what you guys may value more heavily or want to see, and then in relation to that, review the subrecipient applications in coordination with the con plan goals that we have. Just generally, our goals for the next 5 years are housing rehabilitation, public services, public facilities, and program administration. These are the same as the last consolidated plan. They're very general on purpose to allow us for flexibility. And that kind of outlines how we will look to spend funds, and making sure that the applications that we receive are serving to meet a goal. So within the con plan, you'll find the 1-year data. Within the memo, you will also find the 1-year data. If you are looking at the consolidated plan portions of this, the 5-year data is estimates based off of 1-year objectives and goals that they plan out for the 5 years. So there may be some fluctuations, increases, changes, differences in targeting over the next 5 years. But just generally, this is how we will evaluate ourselves at the end of the year for what we have to do for reporting against this 5-year plan to make sure that we're staying on track. We did receive about the amount of money that we were planning on from the notice of funding opportunity, a little bit less, but consistent with what we had with the notice of funding opportunities. The organizations that you see recommended for funding are based off of their rubric scores, the average rubric score that they received. And we took that information to make the recommendations on who would receive the funding for this specific year. I'll open up the floor for any questions that you guys might have for this. I know the con plan is it's a longer plan. It's 200 pages. So if you have any specific questions, please just hit me with a page number. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
I would just like to interject quickly before questions, just to say
Sure.
2 things. First of all, I want to thank Stephen, you, Brian Doley, and the RDA staff for working with us on reforming this process, because I don't know if you remember, in past years, there would be a very long meeting where organizations would make presentations, and the way the selection process went was, frankly, there was a lot more, it wasn't slated to a rubric as refined as this one. And so the development of the rubric, and of course the consultant who helped you do that, that work is greatly appreciated. I think we professionalized this process more so, and I think made it, frankly, fairer. So I really appreciate that. And just as a reminder to council members, this rubric was sent out in December, and we solicited feedback. A number of you did provide feedback. Some of you who were on this call, some of you who were not. on this call currently, but other members of the council. So I also wanted to just give my thanks to those council members who gave feedback and I think helped Stephen and the RDA team and us make this better. So just wanted to do a thank you and just recognize that things are a little different this year than how it's been in the past. And with that, if there are any questions for Stephen, Councilmember Smith.
I don't have any questions, no, but I do want to, just add to your comments, Chair Goldstein, because, this is a process that has been grueling for a number of years. And, it's just nice to have a fresh perspective under your leadership and your willingness to approach this in a new way, Josh. So well done there. And for engaging some of us and, helping to sort out the rubric and giving my teacher rubric perspective. But I think that, one of the most important things about this new process is, aside from the time, right, of going through of the all of the applicants the way we've done in the past, it takes away the emotion and really looks at it more, statistically. It's much more professional, more in line with best practices around this type of funding. So, I think that it's a much better approach. So thank you for everyone involved in making this happen.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments, questions on this item? Seeing none, all in favor to take this item to the July 8th, 2025 Common Council meeting? Okay, I've got, that's 5 votes. That's unanimous. So good job,
Okay.
Stephen and everyone at RDA and who worked on this, and Carly as well.
Yep. So thank you, everybody. Just as a reminder, just with the way that the late release has happened for this, the public comment period also started today. So if we do receive any comments, we will send them to the Common Council members as they are received, so that you guys have enough time to respond to them, so that it's not a last minute response. So just as a heads up, if you see any emails from me with public comment, it is just because somebody has submitted one in writing and I'm sharing it with you guys for consideration.
And one other thing, the ethics forms will be sent
Yep.
around as well. Everyone make sure all the application materials are available as part of the link in the backup. We will make sure that council members get it and have the ability to review it, because they need to certify that they are not in conflict per the HUD guidelines. So all of you have done this before, but that is coming.
Yeah, we'll plan to send them out through DocuSign again, and if anybody has any issue with that or needs an alternative form or source, we'll make sure we provide PDFs through email as well. But you guys should expect that the conflict of interest forms to be sent out next week.
Okay, great. All right, Stephen, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. So now we're at B1. Authorize the mayor, Harry Derby Rilling, to execute an agreement between the City of Norwalk and the State of Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority, CMDA, regarding the participation as a member municipality with the CMDA. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Freyer. Jay, is David here?
He is. He said he's listed as a participant. I think he just needs to be
Moved over?
moved
I see him
over.
listed as Sabrina, can you please move him over? Okay. All right, so Jay, I'm turning this over to you and David.
Great. Well, I'd like to welcome David Corus, the Executive Director for the Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority, who is going to explain a little bit tonight about the authority, what it does, and what some of the advantages are for a municipality like Norwalk to join. And I will turn it over to David. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jay. And thanks for the invitation to be here tonight. Nice to see you all, meet some of you for the first time. I'm David Corus. I'm the Executive Director of the Municipal Development Authority. I'll give you just the short version of kind of what it is that we do, and then happy to answer any questions that any of you might have. We are a statewide quasi-public authority that was established in state statute. We first began our operations this past summer, so July of 2024, and our purpose is to help towns and cities develop around their train stations and in their downtowns. We have a focus on housing, but not exclusively limited to supporting housing objectives. Our broad mandate is for both economic development and transit-oriented development. The ways that we support municipalities is through technical assistance, but also financial support. And so we have a $90 million bond authorization, and we are statutorily enabled to fund transit-oriented development, housing, building demolition or rehabilitation, or anything that falls under the banner of development or redevelopment within targeted areas in our partner municipalities. And so our funding will go either to infrastructure grants directly to cities and towns, or gap financing directly to developers to help bring their projects consistent with your local plans to fruition. The way that we do this, it's a voluntary process. And so the first step, which is what you have before you today, is to opt in by the local legislative body to join us. At that stage, there's no obligation. It's just a raising of the hand to give us an indication that there's enough local interest so we can start to spend some time and energy with you. 161 of the state's 169 municipalities can partner with us as long as they have a downtown or a train or bus rapid transit station. So it's probably closer to 100 that would be eligible. And the opt-in is the way for us to prioritize amongst that group to those that are interested. Once you opt in, the crucial step is that we take a look at your zoning, and it's not citywide. It's exclusively in your downtown or train station areas. Norwalk could decide where we want to focus. You don't have to look at all of your train stations. If you want to just look at South Norwalk, or if you want to look at Sono and the Wall Street area, or if you want to look at Merritt 7, you could look at Rowayton, but you don't have to. It's any one of those areas that are within a half a mile of a rail station, or could be characterized as a downtown, but it doesn't have to be all of those areas. Our statutory obligation is to certify whether or not the zoning in those areas is likely to substantially increase the number of dwelling units. There's obviously some subjectivity there, but we're developing a process to do so. I think for Norwalk, it's fairly straightforward. You're all obviously already enabling transit-oriented development and multifamily housing, particularly Sono and the Wall Street area. So it would likely be a pro forma exercise. But if there were recommendations that we had, it would be entirely within your local discretion whether or not to take them. We don't usurp any zoning control. We don't usurp any local control. It remains exclusively within the domain of the zoning commission and your other local bodies. But if we do have recommendations and you don't take them, then we don't advance to the next step. So it is a necessary engagement to get to the funding piece, but it is purely within your discretion. You're not obligating the municipality to future action just by opting in. It's an ongoing process and negotiation. Once we've certified zoning in some or all of those eligible areas within the city, we then enter into an MOU with the chief elected official that establishes the parameters of the development district or districts. And that's most importantly the line on the map. It's that subset of your areas around your train stations or your downtowns within which we've also certified the zoning. And then you can apply for projects within those boundaries. So the boundaries determine the eligibility for our project funding within those categories that I mentioned earlier. Couple other things I'll mention and then hand it over to questions. $90 million is certainly a decent investment in transit-oriented and downtown neighborhoods, but it obviously will only go so far. And so we're also working very hard to identify ways in which we can support our member municipalities that go beyond financial support. And the two big ways, I think one is matchmaking with developers, although I'd say that's probably less of an issue for Norwalk, given you've got an active development community and a strong track record there. Probably what would be more interesting for you all is help with state permitting. It's admittedly a little aspirational, and we're only in the early stages of figuring this out. But I'm a strong believer that if we have identified a neighborhood for growth with our member municipalities, that the individual developments within there should not be subject to the entirety of the state permitting process, but rather we can look at that neighborhood and its future development as a whole and navigate that through some of the state regulatory process, so that as long as subsequent developers are building within that envelope that is articulated in your zoning, they can avoid some of the future regulatory steps. And I think that could be incredibly advantageous for a community like Norwalk. The final point I'll say, you know, as I mentioned, we started operations in July. Much of 2024 was about getting our policies and procedures and our procurement and our team in place. And so the earliest the municipality could have signed up was February of this year. Over the last several months, we currently have 16 enrolled, another 20 or so, like you, starting to have public discussion around it. Maybe they've even moved on to their public hearing and are on the cusp of opting in, and then another dozen or so that are in the early stages of conversation. So time is absolutely ripe. You know, we certainly would love to work with you all, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, David. Are there any members of the council who have questions for David? I see I'm frozen, but hope you can still hear me.
Yep.
Councilmember Freyer.
Thank you very much, David. That sounds very interesting. You know, listening to you, it just sounds almost too good to be true, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of downside. I don't know whether you were on earlier when there were one of the members of the public spoke and was kind of reluctant. How would you answer somebody like that? You know, she seemed to have a lot of, I think not expectations, but you know, she was a little curious as to, it's almost too good to be true.
Sure.
How do you answer that question?
Sure. So I'm sorry, I was not on the meeting earlier. I wasn't able to join till 7:30, but I think I can probably surmise kind of the tenor of the comments based on your summary. You know, listen, I agree. I don't think there is a downside, especially not for a community like Norwalk that has already demonstrated significant support for you know, modest transit-oriented and downtown development. I think, listen, there's a lot of misperception in the way the state and municipalities engage with one another, and there's a lot of other things going on that raise the specter of loss of local control or forcing one or another development typology. We are very different. We were developed by the General Assembly and the governor to be a tool, a very flexible tool designed to help municipalities of different sizes and different types realize their development objectives within their downtowns and their station areas. So I really, certainly there's no downside in taking the first step. You know, we would continue the conversation. Again, we would focus in on the geography that is most important to you. But I think for a city like Norwalk, we bring an additional source of infrastructure investment potential and gap financing for developers in this difficult, you know, interest rate market. We don't, you know, listen, the big things are we don't have an affordability requirement. We certainly, you know, recognize the importance of affordable housing within Connecticut's communities, but unlike most other programs in the state, our primary objective is production and increase of supply in the places that create the greatest co-benefits: walkable neighborhoods, transit-oriented neighborhoods, neighborhoods where housing will reinforce small business development and the local economy. And so the concerns that come up the most are around forcing a particular development typology, whether it's a particular density or a particular affordability requirement. We do not have an affordability requirement, and we do not have a one-size-fits-all density requirement or building typology. And then the other fear is usually around a usurpation of local control, and there is nothing in our statute that enables to do anything in your city without complete local buy-in. As I said earlier, there could potentially be a situation where we make a zoning recommendation and the city or the zoning commission opts not to pursue it. in which case we couldn't advance to the next step, but it is purely within the local prerogative whether or not to take those steps.
So clearly,
I-
you're just beginning right now.
Yep.
So have you entered any agreements with any other municipalities at this particular point?
No. So the first, as I said, we're up to 16 municipalities who have opted in, and I expect that the first will reach the MOU stage this summer. So potentially as early as our July board meeting.
Okay.
I had a couple of questions. Well, first of all, I think it might be good to feature who some of those, what kind of cities have already signed up.
Sure. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think sort of a
happy to
summary
go
of
through the
who's,
list.
yeah.
Yeah, so the 16 who have already signed up, they run the gamut. They are geographically and size diverse in sort of geographic order. Down in Fairfield County, we've got Danbury and Bridgeport. In the Valley, we have Derby, Seymour, Naugatuck, Waterbury, and Torrington. New Haven is in the Capital Region, we have Avon, Rocky Hill, Enfield, and Manchester. And then out in the Southeast, we have Old Saybrook, New London, and Norwich.
And of which and many of those we would consider contemporaries of ours in terms of population and, just sort of, Danbury, Bridgeport, Waterbury, all in the zone.
Yep.
So that's good to hear.
Yeah. Oh, New Britain as well, which would be
right.
very, very similar.
Very similar. Two questions. One, the House passed, the state legislature passed HB 5002 that includes transit-oriented development programs like Work, Live, Ride. What's the interplay between, or is there any way in which you are affected by that legislation?
Yeah, no. So, these things are operating in parallel. The legislature is always crafting new tools. The short answer is it doesn't affect our operations. The longer answer is there is, if you look in the statute, there's one very specific reference to us because Work, Live, Ride may end up with the Office of Policy and Management designated transit-oriented development districts. There is some language about how, a district established under that program could potentially be approved under our program. So there's some language about kind of making sure that we don't duplicate processes, but beyond that, it doesn't affect our underlying statute.
Okay, so and as I understand this, and David, jump in, or obviously Jay, if I'm wrong about this. And I think one of the question that was raised by Diane Cece, the member of the public, was about process. And obviously we're talking right now, the action item is the MOU. It's not, we haven't done a public hearing. When, you do the MOU, I guess, in terms of timing and logistics, when can people expect, or when is in sort of your vision, to expect something like a public hearing, or like sort of timing wise, like run us through kind of the schedule here.
Sure. So just to clarify, the first step is the resolution to
Yes, I
opt in,
apologize.
which does require a public hearing as part of that process. And so that is the initial step. It does not have any obligation in there. It's just opting in so that we can work with you. I would expect, given the number of communities that are given our capacity, the timeline from opting into an MOU that establishes the development district is probably going to be in the 4 to 6 month range. And then at that stage, projects would be eligible to apply to us. If the municipality is applying, obviously there's a local process around your acceptance of funds. If a developer is applying to us for gap financing, they would not have to go through the municipality, right? If they're in the boundary, just like they'd be going to a bank, they can apply directly to us because they have to comply with your zoning anyways. So no developers can go directly to us for funding without engaging with the municipality, but they can't do something with that money that the city hasn't enabled or entitled them to do. Does that make sense?
Yes. Does anyone else have any questions? I have one other question, but I want to give it an opportunity to Council President Smith.
Yeah, thanks very much, David. So, so you're so new here in Connecticut, right? Is it possible to give an example of maybe how this has worked in other states, and how they've been able to help cities, towns, their communities? I don't
Yeah,
know if-
so Massachusetts has a decent precedent. It's a little different because it's mandatory. But Massachusetts has a program with the MBTA where every municipality that has a rail station had to rezone at least 20 acres around that station for multifamily housing and make it an easier process. And so over the course of the last several years, each of those cities and towns has worked with the state agency and with consultants to develop the locally specific plan. The difference is they have to do that. But the result has been, I think, really fantastic, where they've had robust participatory processes, they've gone through plan amendments, they've done rezoning, and then ultimately presented a clear vision to the investment community, who have then helped those municipalities realize their vision.
Okay. And then just back to that process question and Diane's question, the date of July 2025 for a public hearing, is that in that document? So that's just kind of an idea of when we might have the public hearing that is required as part of this process?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
And,
Thanks,
and
Tom.
David, if you can correct me. The idea with putting that in the resolution is we contemplated that this committee would meet and then schedule a public hearing in July, which is why that July
Got it.
date is in there. It's not locked in. That
Right,
was
right.
just sort of set up the process. And just to Ms. Cece's comment, by the way, the date, the February date at the top of that resolution is the date when they adopted these forms, I believe. So it's their form approved in that date. That's
Yeah. Sorry, if there's a February date, that's the date that the template resolution was drafted.
right. That's all that means. It wasn't anything else. And so, yeah, we contemplate the next step would be this committee would schedule a public hearing for July, at which they discuss and then hopefully pass the resolution on to the council.
Thank you.
Yeah, the statutory requirement is just that the public hearing must occur before the local legislative body passes the resolution.
Got it.
Councilmember Freyer.
Just one last question. So we've got 16 people that have signed on so far. Has anybody started this process and then backed out and what is the reason that they would have backed out?
No, none have backed out.
Or just
the-
decided not to go forward?
No. I mean, we've been talking to about 40 municipalities, and everyone that has been interested from the early conversations has been incrementally moving through the process.
Okay, good.
Jay?
Thanks. And I think something that David just kind of touched on earlier in his presentation is that, in a time where it's so challenging for developments that municipalities want to kind of put together the capital stack and finance a project, it's just such a challenging time. And I think what's unique about the program here is that we still have the opportunity to say yes. I mean, and David, you can correct me. I mean, conversations probably are happening before a zoning approval starts, but unless it passes, it gets our local approval here at the zoning level. Even if earlier discussions about financing have taken place, it's dead on arrival if it doesn't get zoning approval. And so it seems like just such a unique tool for Norwalk to be able to realize the type of development that we want to see in order to kind of take them from paper to construction. So I just wanted to reiterate what the value that I really see as being a participant in the program here.
Thank you, Jay. I had one other question, and then I know David, I appreciate all the time you're spending, and I realize again I'm frozen for some reason. Or actually my video just got turned off. I don't even know what's happening right now. here's my question. In the one sheet, it said CMDA is $60 million in capital authorization. There's 169 municipalities, and you're saying that private developers can apply. And $60 million is a lot of money. But in this particular circumstance, it actually really isn't. It'll fly out the door before you know it, I would imagine. So I am curious how you are funded and if the state law requires that you get replenished every year in that amount or more. Can you tell me just a little bit about your financial structure?
Sure. Yeah. So it's very rare that the state bond bill would go beyond the biennial, 2-year budget. So we were awarded an additional $30 million authorization in the budget that just passed. So that brings it up to 90. Listen, my expectation is through a combination of success, that commitment will continue. And as we loan out funds, they will incrementally come back to us and become a revolving source of investment. We do have our own bonding authority, and so we may get creative in the future with different ways to find additional revenue. But I think when we look out on the long game, right, I'll give you a little window into my thinking, right? In the near term, we're going to be mobilizing funding into infrastructure and development projects. Over the middle and long term, I think where the real value is partnering with us enables us together to have a shared vision for the future of these targeted geographies within your municipality that then becomes the playbook that can be clearly articulated to all the various state funding agencies and to discretionary federal sources when those come back. And so, I tell all the municipalities, if you have a remediation project or you have a streetscape project, if there's no other source, we can fund that. But first and foremost, I'm going to stand alongside you, helping DECD or DEEP or DOH or DOT understand the way in which your ask is part of this larger strategy for unlocking the potential of this neighborhood that is of local and statewide significance.
I think that's really important, especially because, and we've been very focused on housing. We have an ad hoc affordable housing committee on our council, and Norwalk, like many of the urban municipalities, has a really acute housing problem, where especially a lot of our middle and lower income families, really their cost burden in terms of how much their housing costs are well beyond the 30% that it's supposed to be. And so I think this is a wonderful opportunity to try and figure out how to build, whether it's transit-oriented development, but other kinds of housing that is geared towards providing housing opportunities for the people for whom it is hardest to get housing.
Absolutely.
So, because I know that there have been challenges in the private development space about securing a profitable model for that kind of housing, when frankly, you're not going to really get the most profitable model from that kind of housing, nor should you. So it's just probably not feasible. So use this, I think, as a tremendous opportunity to do so. So I really appreciate spending time with us and hopefully getting to spend a lot more time with us in the future.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Does anyone else have any questions for David? Okay, then I will call for a vote. Seeing all in favor. Okay. David, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Look forward to chatting more soon.
Great, thanks. And Jay, thank you for your work on this as well.
Hey, John,
Tom, see your hand up? Yeah.
yes, just to be clear, you're voting to move this to public hearing, right? Is that?
Yeah.
You probably have to state that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me take a look here.
You approve the resolution and then you vote to move it to public hearing. I think you need to set
Yes.
a vote for that.
All right, let's make sure we do this right, because the language I had was executing the agreement, but we are moving this to public hearing. So the language here, to authorize the mayor, moving this item B1 to a public hearing. All in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. Tom, thank you. Good that we cleared that up.
Yeah, okay. And the
Okay.
public hearing is the next meeting in July.
Yeah, we will set the date. We're gonna need to move the date probably because the July meeting is July 3rd, which is obviously before July 4th. So I
Yeah.
was gonna talk about that at the end of the meeting, but we will
Well,
figure out. a
just to,
date to make
just to
this
be clear, you're moving this to public hearing at your meeting in July, whenever that is.
whatever our meeting in July is, you know, but I know that we were anticipating moving the meeting given that it's right before the holiday weekend.
Sure.
Okay, C1, transportation, mobility, and parking. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement between the City of Norwalk and Streetlight Data, Inc. for citywide traffic analyses for a sum not to exceed $21,938. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Shanahan. This is Nell.
So I'll
Jim,
jump into
sorry.
this. So Nell's joining me. She's the one of the newer members of the team. She is our traffic analyst. I want to walk her through this one. So the reason we're looking for sole source on Streetlight is two reasons. One, and probably the most primary reason, is that we have historical data with Streetlight for 2 additional years. This allows us to build upon our previous data. We did look at other companies who provide similar types of data, and weren't able to find one that provided the exact same data that we would be able to use. But also, when we were getting even closer to it, all of those companies were at a higher rate than Streetlight. So Streetlight allows us, to build the foundation of traffic data that we have in partnership with the Yukon Crash Data Repository. It allows us to better understand the volume of traffic on our streets, the average speed that's going through our streets, our 85th percentile. Marrying that with our crash history, we understand what are challenging issues, and it's one of the tools that we use to be successful with our grant writing. But in addition, it's also it's poised to be the baseline for our Vision Zero plan. But I also have to say, we've spent the greater part of the time that we've been here working, creating this database. This database probably rivals that of, Cambridge, who is largely seen as the leader in this industry. But we share our data with the police department. We've had the police department over a number of times. Very proud of this and very proud of where it's leading us. But we think this is a wise investment. But we wanted to be good stewards of people's tax dollars to make sure we were spending it wisely. We did look alternatively at other players, but couldn't find one. That's why you're in front of sole source. Happy to answer any questions on these.
Are there any questions for Jim? Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. All right. Now the second one. Woof. Whereas, pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 32-285A, the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development is authorized to extend financial assistance for economic development projects. And whereas it is desirable and in the public interest that the City of Norwalk make an application to the state for $1.5 million in order to undertake the Washington Street Historical Restoration and Streetscape Project for building facade improvements, improved pedestrian lighting, and creation of parklets on Washington Street from North Main Street to North Water Street. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Norwalk that it is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for the state financial assistance imposed by Connecticut General Statute Section 32-285A, that the filing of an application for state financial assistance by City of Norwalk in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million is hereby approved, and that Harry W. Rilling, as mayor of the City of Norwalk, is directed to execute and file such application with the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development to provide such additional information, to execute such other documents as may be required to execute an assistance agreement with the state of Connecticut for state financial assistance, if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, decisions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the City of Norwalk. With that, do I have a motion? Councilmember Fryer, Jim.
Okay, so this one, it was, yes, we apologize for the long speech, but
Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Ann Winterstrand, who's going to have to read all of this on Tuesday night.
So this is it's part of the it's part of this year's process for the Community Investment Fund. So largely, really, what we're asking you to vote for today is allowing us to put in an application, a grant application, with the DECD for the Community Investment Fund for $1.5 million. I've been working with Jay on this in partnership with his team. We see this as one that we would use $1,250,000 as a facade grant match program on a 50-50 scale, which would really ultimately mean we would get $2.5 million of grant facades improvement to the historic Washington district. The rest would be introduction of parklets, which you recall last year when we did the demonstration project on Main Street, we installed a parklet and we put the floor or the decking in. We did the tables. It was very well received by the community. We see that this is an opportunity to use grant funding to secure those, to introduce those to Washington, and then the additional funding would be used for lighting. The reason that we did this for Washington is I think we try to match the grant opportunities that come out with opportunities that we have in the city. In this instance, we had this section of Washington, which was designated as a historic district, and we believe it best lines up with the requirements for the grant. It is not a guarantee of funding. It is just a request that we apply this, and so this is our request to you to say that we could apply for this SIF grant, and that if we get it, the mayor can execute the agreement to accept the funds. And again, the request that we're making for this grant is $1.5 million.
Does anyone have any questions for Jim? Side note, I said the wrong person. It's Darlene who's up for the consent calendar, not Anne. But don't worry, she'll be ready. She's a gamer. So with that, all in favor? All right, that's unanimous. I should have brought in David Huvelman to do these. He always did a fine job reading the consent calendar, but I'm going to do my best. 3. Whereas, pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 32-285A, the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development is authorized to extend financial assistance for economic development projects. And whereas it is desirable in the public interest that the City of Norwalk make an application to the state for $2.5 million in order to undertake the Lexington Avenue Mobility and Transit Access Upgrade for roadway and sidewalk reconstruction on Lexington Avenue from Ely Avenue to Austin Street. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Norwalk that it is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for the state financial assistance imposed by Connecticut General Statute Section 32-285A, and that the filing of an application for state financial assistance by the city of, by the way, it says by City of Norwalk. I think it should say by the City of Norwalk, in an amount not to exceed $2.5 million is hereby approved, and that Harry W. Rilling, as mayor of the City of Norwalk, is directed to execute and file such application with the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development to provide such additional information, to execute such other documents as may be required, to execute an assistance agreement with the state of Connecticut for state financial assistance if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, decisions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the City of Norwalk. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Smith. Oh, no, Councilmember Seed. He hasn't done one yet. So, Jim.
Okay, so again, a long drawn out introduction to requesting ability to apply for a grant. In this case, we also saw the opportunity based on the grant requirements that we think a good fit would be Lexington Avenue. Lexington Avenue today is between 25 and 26 feet in width for the roadway. There's on-street parking because it's one of our older neighborhoods that we have in the city. Many of the homes built before the introduction of the automobile, that many people not having driveways. There's a lot of people who park on street. We need to make sure that we accommodate those. But the challenge is really, having roadway operations function in the remaining part of the roadway. And we recently worked with the transit district on a comprehensive operational analysis. And one of the recommendations come from the consultant Nelson Nygaard, when we looked up a new schedule, was that we would have bidirectional buses go down Lexington, because it is the highest bus ridership that we have in the city, right? These are people who need these services with the, this stretch of road. Many people are there without a car. Those households, many households only have one car. So, it's very, it's going to be well served by public transportation, but we can't fit buses side by side with the cars, right? So we took a look at this, and this was also addressed. This is Councilperson Young's district. This was also addressed to me by her, and many times as looking at this. So this does have support coming from the council member in overseeing the area as well, right? So this would be, we would install new sidewalks on each side. The sidewalks would be 5 feet. One of them is 5, one of them is 7 today. We would minimize both of them to 5, using additional footage to go to the roadway. We believe that we have a 40-foot cross section of road. We feel comfortable that we can get 5-foot sections on each side, get an 8-foot parking lane, 2 10-foot travel lanes, and fit bus traffic side by side. And with that, we would be able to dramatically improve bus service to folks. Because if you're looking right now, the bus service only goes south. If you're looking to get north, if you're looking to get to the train station, right, then you have to get on that bus. You have to continue its track all the way south until it turns around and then goes back up Main, right? So it adds a considerable amount of time to your commute. So we think what we're going to get out of this is really improved bus service. We're going to get a roadway that's much safer. We have a number of side swipes that we believe are attributed to the narrowness of the road. So we would eliminate or reduce those. We would have new sidewalks. Those sidewalks that are there today are not ADA compliant. We would provide ADA compliant sidewalks throughout the corridor. This would be through the entirety of the corridor from Ely Avenue all the way to Knapp, right? So again, this is also in Sono, adjacent to the new Sono school. So we would be we are undertaking a $1.5 million grant for sidewalks, filling in the gaps of sidewalks in South Norwalk right now. This would provide brand new sidewalks on one of the major corridors that we have in the street in this part of the city. So happy to answer any questions on this one as well.
Any questions? Go get the grant.
Okay. So that's
Yeah, I
$4
do have a
million
question.
today.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So Jim, I agree with Josh. Go get these. What are the chances are that we will get these?
So, we take time looking at, what's the objective of the grants? Like, what are they trying to go for, right? And we really believe that in both of these instances, we are honing in onto, two of the things that were really important, right? And for Washington Street, there was really a portion of the grant that called for, facade improvements to historical preservation of buildings. And in this instance, we have that for Washington, and we believe that Washington, we can zhuzh it up, right? There's challenges with Walkbridge. We all know that, right? And this would provide, a little bit of future relief to them as we be able to start it and keep it going. So I think we're fairly comfortable that we presented a great application to do that. It certainly checks the boxes, right? And I think that checking the boxes in Lexington, we really have a diverse community. We have a massive hit to public transportation, positive hit there, right? It's a safety component because we believe that the improvements that we'll make will reduce crashes throughout the corridor. It has a pedestrian component, as it will make all of the sidewalks throughout the corridor ADA compliant, where they do not, where it does not exist today, right? There's a socioeconomic perspective from this community that is very closely matched to some of the grant requirements. So we think that both grants are can fare well, and I think that we are in the respectful dollar amount with both of these that we could potentially see both of them funded.
I hate to even ask that question because you've got such a good track record in getting these things. So hope I haven't spooked you at all.
Also,
No,
this is
no,
Nancy
not at all.
Conahara Council, so we're not going to jinx it. Good luck.
Thank you.
But we do need to vote. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you, Nell.
Thank you, Nell.
Thank you, everybody.
All right,
All
now she
right.
has work to do. Thank you.
All right, well, now we're moving on to D, Building and Code Enforcement. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a 3-year contract with Love Your Home LLC for $139,135 for year 1, $140,935 for year 2, and $140,935 for year 3, with the option to extend the contract for years 4 and 5 at a rate of $144,715 per year. Account number noted. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Freyer. Stephen, the floor is yours. Stephen, you're on mute. Stephen, you're on mute.
There we go. You guys
Great.
got me now?
Yep, we can hear
Sorry
you.
about that. We sent this out for an RFP, because the current, contract is due. So we had two, bidders. One was the current city contractor, landscaper, and a new one that came in. The new one that came in was significantly cheaper than the current one. So we ended up having a scope of work meeting with this, with the new landscaper to make sure that they understood the scope of work that needed to be done and that they could do it within that money that they've allocated. He answered all the right questions, all the questions the right way, I should say, and we were satisfied with our meeting with him. We stand to save a lot of money by switching landscapers. But again, you never know what you're going to get. So we're going to take a shot at it. And we'll see where it goes from here. We're happy with everything that's been going on. So he says he can do it. So we're going to give him a chance. Anybody have any questions about that?
Councilmember Freyer.
Yeah, I noticed that on the bids that the labor is a lot cheaper with the new guy, although they're spending more money on plants, but the labor difference is pretty significant. And did that raise any red flags to you guys?
Well, it did at first, and then we had like the scope of work hearing or meeting with the new landscaper, and we made sure we went through the entire contract with him, and you have to do this, you have to do that, just to make sure he understood the scope of work, and he answered everything to our satisfaction, at least. Bill was in there with me, Bill Ireland, and we were up with purchasing, and yeah.
I mean, it's a incredibly significant savings on the labor side of it. So I mean, it's great if he can perform it.
Right. I mean,
we're getting
it would be ideal to it would be ideal to have a third one in there to see what they came up with. Yeah. I mean, the discrepancy is so vast that I mean, if he says he can do what's on the contract, then he's going to be held liable if he doesn't. I mean, we're going to keep an eye on him, just like we did with the last landscaper. So.
Councilman Smith.
I'm sorry.
Barbara.
Yeah, just curious. I mean, if you ask the question, are they paying a living wage?
We asked that question. Purchasing did their homework on that. Apparently they're a legit company. They do work with other municipalities, and we've contacted those references, and everybody's, I mean, you're not gonna put down a bad reference, but they were spoken pretty highly of by these references, so really,
Yeah, and we spent I spent considerable time with Stephen and Bill looking over some of these contracts, and I think Stephen, we had the previous contractor under. They were a vendor for the city for how long, roughly?
I believe the last 6 years.
Last 6 years. And so, I think, we tend to get kind of comfortable with some of our vendors. We expect what they're going to do. And I think sometimes there's a little bit of hesitancy when we're switching over and trying to make sure that the city is getting the very best product at the very best price. And so I think there's always a little bit of, we hope things work out, right? And so that was part of the reason why I recommended that Stephen and Bill meet and Sharon from purchasing meet with the low bidder to make sure that they had a very clear understanding of the scope of work, and that they were meeting all of our purchasing requirements regarding wages and things like that. And so there seemed to be, I wasn't at that meeting, Stephen and Bill were, and we talked about it, and Sharon from purchasing to make sure that there was full understanding, full compliance with all of the city's requirements. And I think coming to that meeting, Stephen, I mean, we all felt pretty confident. I think the only thing that, it's a new vendor, and so we're hoping that they do a great job, right?
Right. Yeah, you don't know until you give it a shot.
Right, but I think what Jay's asking is, I assume that this vendor has a track record and has references and there's been due diligence as to the veracity and their ability to perform services like this, correct?
Yeah, apparently this vendor also works with the public schools in Norwalk. They gave him a very good reference. So
Okay.
I mean, we do have a little bit of history with this company, so, and they swear by them. They use them all
Stephen,
the
do you know
time.
how long they've been doing work for NPS?
Unclear, but it's been at least the last 4 years.
Okay.
Okay,
That's a helpful
helpful.
that's a helpful piece of information.
Yeah. Yeah, we contacted the reference, the Norwalk reference. Bill spoke to him. Bill knew who he was.
I am also curious, and this is just purely because that information was not in the memo, so I'm glad this came out.
Yeah.
I would be curious if the rate of that the city would be paying them is similar to the rate that NPS is paying them, or if there's some disparity here. I just don't know. But I would be curious to know that.
Yeah,
Certainly something that we can look into.
we can definitely look into. I can do that tomorrow.
It goes back to the synergies that we don't realize within the city. Everybody's got a silo.
Yeah.
And you've got somebody purchasing from the same person for 2 silos in the city, which is
Well, and I mean, it
it's
seems
ridiculous.
that they knew. It's just it wasn't in the backup. We didn't know.
No, we didn't know.
We
I
didn't know,
agree,
'cause it's not
but
in the- yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
So
No.
I just hope, there was the only bidder last year, the last contract was the current landscaper vendor. Okay, so again, we don't have really another number to go off of other than what they paid our public schools, which we can certainly find out for sure on that. But as far as we don't want to be, gouged either, by a vendor, 'cause nobody else is bidding. It's easy to throw a number out there,
Sure.
but
I mean, look, there's
But
no
if it
doubt
was
that
all-
this.
If
Oh,
we
Jim, go
had
ahead.
the citywide purchasing department that would purchase both for the schools and for the city,
Yeah.
we would be able to probably realize, well, first of all, our purchasing power is going to be a lot better. And maybe we would have switched over 2 years ago.
No,
I don't know.
you're absolutely right about that. Yeah, it would be good to know how long they have been doing services for MPS for. I think getting a fine number on that would be
Yeah, we
helpful.
can work on that tomorrow, yeah.
That would be great. Barbara.
Yeah, I have another question. Are they a Norwalk company? I'm trying to find it in the backup, but I haven't seen it.
They're out of Stanford.
Okay,
Yeah, they're out of Stanford.
just
Their
curious.
contractor is Norwalk.
Okay.
Wait. Oh, okay. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's unanimous. Stephen, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks for having.
Nice work, Steve.
Last but not least, business development and tourism, E, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a 1-year contract with 4 additional extension options with Miranda Creative in an amount not to exceed $189,900 per year. Account numbers noted. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Shanahan. Sabrina.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. So as most of you know, we have been working with DKA since 2019 at this point. So it was about time for not only some consolidation, but also to take a look at the scope of the contract that we currently had in place. We originally used DKA not only to build out our 2 websites, so the Visit Norwalk website as well as the Norwalk for Business website. And we also had them build out our branding, our socials, all of the fun stuff that falls under that. But we were changing our scope up to be more content driven than we currently are, which is kind of the phase that we're at now. Originally, we had to build the resources and start from scratch. So all of that work is done. But now we're stepping into more of a content creation phase, but also refreshing a lot of the stuff that we have on those websites. But while we were doing this scope of work, we looked to the other departments that are also using other marketing firms to be able to do marketing for them, whether it be social media or website management or any of those things. So we have the Parking Authority, Planning and Zoning, Visit Norwalk, which is Business Development and Tourism, as well as Norwalk for Business, which is Business Development and Tourism, as well as General City Media. Michelle and Skylar do the social media for that. So that was not included in the scope, which you can see in the scope of work that was included. But they do some, DK was doing some one-off things for the mayor's office as well, and the city as a whole. So to be able to include that, we kind of put anything and everything that we would ever need from a marketing firm into that scope. And with doing that consolidation for one firm, we hope to be more consistent with messaging, but also to be able to have sort of an economies of scale when it comes to this scope of work. So we actually saved almost $130,000 with this consolidation. So we're really happy that we essentially cut the amount that we were paying advertising firms in the city a little bit more than in half. So we're saving a good chunk of money, but also at the end of the day, we're getting more services than we were before, and we'll have more cohesiveness throughout. We had a lot of great responses. We had over about 6 to 7 interviews with other firms. So this wasn't taken lightly. All of the departments that are included in the scope were included in the review of all of these proposals. And at the end of all of this, Miranda Creative was the shining star for all of us. Their presentation was very great. Their references were really great. And the team that they have together not only has folks that are in Norwalk a lot of the time. I believe some even live here. They're willing and ready to come and collect content at our events, at our restaurants, kind of at our businesses, which was a lot of on staff previously, which quite frankly, we are working on, 12 other things at once. So the content creation part of this kind of fell to the bottom of the list for us when it's, getting a business in the door and helping them open versus, going to collect content, kind of falls to the bottom. So we're happy that this firm will be able to do that, but we were really impressed with their resume, but also They came prepared to the interview with things that we should be looking at changing already, which was the only firm that we interviewed that did that, which I think is really amazing. And they have bilingual capabilities, so we're happy with that as well. And Miranda is also here. She's been at this meeting all night, but she is here to answer any questions that you may have. I'm going to allow her to join us. So if you guys have any questions for me or any questions for Miranda, feel free to shoot them over.
Anyone have any questions?
I have a comment. I think that, we heard some of the public talking about using our own homegrown marketing people. But I always think that it's really good every once in a while to get a fresh look at things and get a different perspective from people. So, and the fact that you've gone to different departments, talking about the silos again, and we've got to break down those silos and get around and get everybody's, because everybody can come up with a marketing program, but it's got to be unified and it's got to be focused. So the fact that we were able to save some money on this is icing on the cake. So great job.
Thank you so much.
Council
It's a team
President
effort.
Smith.
What he said.
I'm sorry, I concur.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, thank you, Jim. Yeah, and in-house marketing is not the same as a professional company. And the fact that we can do this and save the city money is great. I'm pretty impressed by what I see in their presentation here. And great sell there, Sabrina. You have a great way of just really wrapping everything up. And I'm sold.
Thanks so much. And if that's all the questions, Miranda, if you want to say anything, feel free to.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Miranda. I'm very honored to be here this evening. We are incredibly grateful for this opportunity, very, very excited. We've already had some initial meetings just to get ahead of ourselves to make sure that we're organized for as you move through this process, because you need to hit the ground running in July, and we're prepared to do so. The team who's going to be working out of the Norwalk area, one of them is, as you mentioned, Sabrina, is a resident. We were able to create a job opportunity for him, a Norwalk resident, recent graduate from school, and will be his first employer as a result of this contract, which is how things should be. Creation of jobs and creation of economic opportunities. So Chris cannot wait to begin, and so can we. So thank you for tonight's consideration.
Thank you very much. With that, all in favor? That is unanimous. Sabrina, Miranda, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
I'm sorry, Marie. I don't know why I said just Miranda. Marie, thank you.
I get that all the time. Don't worry.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, I know we had a big agenda tonight, but we've now completed it. Wait, Lisa, 1 second. I did say this a little while ago, but so the first Thursday of July is July 3rd. Obviously, the holiday weekend starts then. Jay and I were talking about this. I think we will find a way to likely postpone that meeting to another date, so that people can frankly go away for the holiday weekend, if they so choose, or whatever holiday plans they have.
Or stay here and watch fireworks.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
We always do our fireworks on the 3rd, right?
Absolutely. Oh, right. And yet another reason. But I know that people have plans. They want to go see the fireworks, So we're going to postpone the meeting. We'll work out a public hearing date for I forgot the acronym because there's too many acronyms. MDA. And we'll figure that out, but keep posted. But there will be a new date for the July meeting. All right, Lisa, now it's time.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.